I practiced law for about 15 years, and my last legal job was as general counsel of a place called Parc Provence, which is one of the really high-end luxury dementia care facilities. And at the same time that I was doing that deal, my mother-in-law developed Alzheimer's. So our family was in the throes of dealing with it to the best of our abilities. So it was really my personal and professional lives kind of came together. Our family really did not know what we were doing. We had a bunch of lawyers, which was great for law and not great for healthcare or being caregivers. So we did not know how to care for my mother-in-law. We didn't know much about the disease of Alzheimer's. We didn't know what was intentional and what was being caused by the disease. We didn't know about resources, et cetera. So I figured there's probably a need. If our family has that need, there's probably other people who don't have resources at all, financial or otherwise.
The situation that dramatically changed the person I am today is when I quit my full-time job and went back to graduate school. When I was almost 30 years old, I went from a wonderful job and I quit completely and went back to earning $10,000 a year as a graduate teaching assistant. And I had no idea if I would be successful or not, or if I even really wanted to be a professor or not. But I made this huge leap of faith. And it turned out to be exactly the right thing to do. And I'm in a job I love. But I think in our lives, to really find what we're passionate about and what we love, we have to take these leaps of faith.
My parents have always instilled like a work hard mentality, like what can you be doing to be the best person that you can be. So I grew up seeing them both work really hard, and my grandparents as well. But I also think it's like a sense of family and the importance of family in that group, and caring about people as people. They really instilled a sense of caring and empathy in me, and I think that's a huge part of who I am today.
Well, this is where I'm going to cry, because the woman who shaped my life was my grandmother, Anna. Anna came here to the United States from Poland in 1907 as a 21-year-old with a baby, pregnant with another soon after, and went on to have 8 more children after that. And she was the rock of my life. She lived across the street from my elementary school, and we would go there, my brother and I, for lunch. She was a terrible cook, but a great baker. And she couldn't read or write in English, but she could count faster than anyone I knew, and she could do math flawlessly. And she really told me that every woman needed to have a PhD. And by the time I was 7, I knew I was going to get a PhD, and people would say, "In what?" And I'd say, "It doesn't matter."
That would be my mom. She is confident, she's always been ambitious, compassionate, caring, and she made so much happen with the little she had. And I was always inspired by her dedication. People just love her, and she's such an encourager. So whatever has happened in life, she's always been encouraging. She's always been passionate about us getting our education. And it's that ambition that drove her to leave Nigeria to further her education in England. So that decision that she took has impacted me, my siblings, impacted my kids. And so it's generational. So that small decision she made to further her education is continuing to yield fruits, 50 years after.
I believe probably by the age of 14, I was in the 9th grade, and I was a cheerleader in school. I did football cheerleading, I did basketball cheerleading, I ran track, I was in the band, I was in the choir. During those times, I realized that my mother was the only one who was in my life, who was there to pick me up and drop me off, and it becomes a lot for one person. And so my father was not around, and I knew then, after standing outside waiting on a bus, well, not even a bus, just a ride home from a basketball game, I realized how everyone else's family was pulling up to pick them up, and my mother was at work, and I realized that that was not a good place for a kid to be, to try to figure out how you're going to get home. So I kind of knew then that I'm going to help all children so that they never have to be in this situation.
My dad was my best friend. He died September 3rd of 2007. So I always say I had my dad for over 40 years. He was the person that I shopped with, hung out with. Every book I read in school, he read. Every paper I wrote, he edited. And he was the one person that made me think that I could do anything imaginable. There were no limits. To be comfortable in where I was from and who I was, not only as a person, as a woman, but just as an individual sharing the planet with everybody else. I mean, he just made me feel as if I hung the moon, and I still feel that way today.
I think that the way that I am uniquely an agent for change is having the courage to build something, but not necessarily know exactly what it is that we're building. So having an idea and a goal, but being flexible enough and having the courage to jump in and learn as you go, and to constantly be morphing that ultimate design in order to achieve your outcomes.
I think the biggest way is through my teaching at Maryville University. I get the privilege of having an influence over at least 100 students a semester. I also do it through my speaking in the community. I speak at a lot of nonprofits, and I try to share the knowledge that I have in my research, especially on women's leadership. The third way is through my writing. I actually get to write a lot to talk about and advocate for women, especially in the workplace, and how we need to promote women and women in leadership is crucial, and that we have to have more women in higher levels. My whole goal is to rise and hopefully end the wage gap, the gender wage gap. That's truly my goal, is to fight that. We're still at 83 cents on the dollar, which is ridiculous in 2021.
I try and approach things with an entrepreneurial mindset, a solution-oriented mindset. So if I see a problem or I feel like something's missing, I'm like, how do I fix it? Like, anything from like, oh, I don't really like the snacks in our break room. Can we help make these healthier? Like, let's order a few new things to, I moved back to St. Louis from Dallas a few years ago. So I was looking for opportunities to network and meet new people outside of those that I would typically have met with or, be associated with through work. And that led to me forming the St. Louis chapter of the IPG Women's Leadership Network, which brings together 3 IPG agencies in St. Louis, gets those women together for networking opportunities, leadership opportunities, and just, general understanding and meeting up to talk more about what's going on in our lives. And I found that really rewarding.
When I was coming up in the field, I'm trained as an ethnohistorian, historical archaeologist. Women were not museum directors. And I sort of had a career where I went up in a museum, then out of a museum for another career, came back, went out, came back. And I came back. This museum is my second museum presidency at the Missouri Historical Society. And I think I have changed the field of both museums and the practice of public history all through my career.
I try to be a change agent through my passion. So I've always been passionate about economic inclusion, economic development, and education in everything I've done. I've always tried to make sure that I'm having an impact in those areas. And so at Edward Jones, as an example, we're really determined to ensure that over 1 million individuals receive financial education by 2025.
My oldest foster child is 42. She's the very first child that I parented. And I saw the track as time went on of where her family was going, where she was going. So we kind of pulled her in a little closer, gave her a little bit more structure. That now she's 42, she's married, she has babies, and she's actually being a parent. To me, that speaks volumes. Everybody that comes in my home, I make everybody support each other. Because if they're here with me, that means that everybody else in your life has dropped the ball. So when you're here, not only are you being parented, you're also learning how to communicate. You're learning how to put some of your differences to the side so that you can work with other people. You're learning that other people can love you
To be a woman in the room and making decisions that impact the citizens of the state, that's a very heavy task, and one that I relish and I'm very excited about. Sometimes you feel as if, am I qualified to make decisions for someone else's life? Judging people, reading the law, it's all based upon your interpretation. And we can interpret things differently. And so for me, it goes back to being the core person that I am, which is someone that really cares about everybody. I care about getting it right. And I really care about getting people out of some of the worst circumstances of their lives to some semblance of resolution.
The opportunity to work on a brand new luxury, high-end dementia care facility was an incredible opportunity and an opportunity for transformation for me. You kind of learn quickly that you can learn it. You can be that agent of change even if you don't have the background, if you have the smarts and the good mentoring and the time to put into it and the resources to educate yourself, you can really do just about anything.
The biggest transformational change I've made in my life is through intrapersonal communication, how I talk to myself. It is crucial that we talk to ourselves positively, that voice inside our head. And if we wouldn't say it to a friend, we shouldn't say it to ourselves. And so correcting that voice inside my head, I had a very critical voice that would be very cruel. And so over time, I've learned to correct that voice, not, there are moments, but correcting that voice and being positive.
Having the ability and the confidence to say no to things that aren't going to help me achieve my goals. Selectively saying no to opportunities that aren't going to help you grow opens up your time to spend in different ways, whether that's, chasing a dream that you have, that you want to do, spending more quality time with your family. All of those things help me just feel more flexible and think differently than if I was overwhelmed and had taken on too much.
When I came to St. Louis, I was hired to be the president of Missouri Historical Society in 2014. And I was scared. I spent the last month in New Mexico crying every day. How could I give up this mountain air? How could I give up this beautiful museum that I had built? And an old cowboy who I worked with, I had just worked and opened an exhibit called Cowboys Real and Imagined. And Jimmy Hicks was a real cowboy. And Jimmy came over to me and he said, "What are you crying about?" And I said, "I'm moving. I'm going to St. Louis. I don't know anyone there. I'm not quite sure what I'm doing here." And he said, "You go for it, and you call me in a year, because you're not just going to arrive in St. Louis, you're going to thrive in St. Louis." And I called him a year later and said, "This is the best move of my life. I love it here. It's exciting. There are huge challenges here, and the museum can be a part of making this a better community, a stronger community."
I'm always very organized. I like my routine, and I've found over the years that I love the discipline of a routine. It keeps me accountable, so I love that. However, one thing that has transformed me over the years is leaning into being spontaneous. That joy of spontaneity has been marvelous. The random phone call that you decide to take, even though you don't want to take it, it's soul feeding. The occasional breakfast with my husband, it wasn't planned, it wasn't in the calendar, but it happens. Having a conversation with a friend that was unexpected. Again, those things feed my soul, and even though it's not necessarily planned, it's joyful.
That regardless to how tired I am, regardless to what I might be going through in my personal life, if I can make that 1 minute to hear what someone else's complaints are, or to hear what somebody else might be concerned with or going through at that moment, number one, it takes my mind off of my own situation for a little while. And to me, if my mind is off of my situation, it gives God a chance to fix my situation while I'm trying to help the next person.
Really embracing my career. Early on, I was a judge in family court, juvenile court, and I really loved those jobs. And being a judge seemed so far off. It's not something I ever had an aspiration to do. And so when I would look at other people, I thought, wow, I wonder if I can ever do that. And to really embrace the job and to embrace a career that I never really wanted in the first place has really given me sort of a second chance.
I think the thing that most inspires me is dignity and being able to give everybody, no matter where they are, and no matter what capabilities or functioning ability they have, the dignity that they deserve being a human.
Women who have gone for their dreams, and our other nominees are just phenomenal, and they inspire me. But also, I am deeply inspired that we can make a difference for others. I am inspired to make a better world for my 4-year-old daughter.
So I am a kind of new mom. I have a toddler, an 18-month-old. And so I'm really inspired by her, like seeing the world through her eyes. Everything is new, everything is exciting, and there's not like a set way that like you should play with a toy. Learning to let go of the I should do something this way is really an inspiring way to approach life, an inspiring way to approach work.
What inspires me is using museums as places to learn. It's voluntary learning. When you're in a classroom and you're learning history, it's the teacher's way. And I got in lots of trouble in high school for challenging the teacher's perspectives on history. Where did I get that confidence? Was being in a museum and learning to see history in the objects. So I'm inspired by objects, I'm inspired by people's stories, I'm inspired by maps, documents. I love it all.
Kindness. The little things that people do to change their view of the world, the kindness of strangers, people saying hello to you.
The fact of knowing that I'm doing something that's going to last forever. It doesn't fade away. Whatever I teach this child how to do, whether it's to cook, to clean, to be kind, they're going to pass it on to their children.
I challenge myself to be the best version of myself every day. I've always liked me, but I can't say that I've always felt as proud and as confident in that statement as I do now. And that inspires me every day to get up and to make the next day better than the last.
I think the biggest thing is to believe in yourself and try to not to let your own self-doubt hinder you. You know, have the courage to try and to believe in yourself.
There are gonna be times where you're gonna get knocked down, where something's gonna happen, you don't get the promotion, you don't get the raise, or things don't go through, and you've gotta have that tenacity to not give up. And that's, I think, what makes the difference between being successful. And know that you are valuable and you have a voice and power and wonderful things to provide. And we need you. We need you in our world.
Don't wait to be great. I feel like everyone's always like, oh, it's not the right time, or I don't have enough time, I'm overwhelmed at work. You never know what's coming tomorrow. So why would you wait to take on your dreams?
I've had a lot of challenges, and sometimes I've gone straight through them, and sometimes I've gone around them. And what I learned early on was that there's always a third way. It's not my way, it's not your way. There's some way that is going to get us to the goal that we need to. And there is always a way that we can find common ground if you can listen to my point of view and if I can listen to your point of view.
Find good mentors, and they don't have to look like you. They don't have to act like you. Find people that are different from you, that will challenge you and will help you learn and navigate those obstacles that you are bound to face.
Love more. It's a bad place now too, where every time you look on television, you keep hearing how many people have died, how many people have gotten shot, how many people were killed just 24 hours ago. It's not even 24 hours ago. And to me, a lot of it now is coming from our younger generation. And I think that if more people pull them in to love them more, they would know how to love more, and they wouldn't hold grudges. They wouldn't be always ready to fight. They wouldn't be ready to set it off as soon as something happened that they did not like. I think that would be a great change.
Listen to other people that you work with, and don't ask people to do things that you won't. When you can really appreciate the jobs that everybody else on your team that they do for you, and you appreciate them as individuals and you listen, it really makes people want to go to the mat for you. And I tell women, change because you want to. Don't change because you feel you have to. As women, sometimes we do feel as if we've got to fill so many gaps and we've got to do so many things just to be accepted. But you're who you are, and you should be comfortable in that and wear your own skin and wear it proudly, because I do.